PS.
All right, thank you very much, Sam. My name is Abu Bakr Hassan. I'm the Principal Secretary in charge of investment promotion in the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. And with me, my panelists, the first panelist is Mr. Wilson Ondege. Ondege, the CEO of Daktari Biotechnology. The second panelist is Mr. Robert Shuri, the CEO of One Voice Consortium. It's an umbrella body of Diaspora Association in Atlanta. The third panelist is Mr. Franco Mondi, the CEO of NATS Corporation in an EPZ program. My fourth panelist is David Lusa, the Director of Financial Market at the Central Bank of Kenya. My fifth panelist is Anastasia Kimutai, who's the CEO of KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank, Kenya. And last but not least, we have Emily Orwaru, the Senior Consultant, Deloitte, US. Okay, so first I will just give them, they will introduce themselves and what they do, then I'll pick it up from there. Let me start with Anastasia.
My name is Anastasia Kimtai, Managing Director, KCB Bank Kenya, where we catalyze your economic growth. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Wilson Ondege. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Daktari Biotechnology Company.
My name is Franco Mondi. I'm the CEO of Grow Fairly Kenya. We export macadamia, cashews, and dried fruit into the US. We work with 23,000 smallholders in Kenya.
My name is Yuri. I'm founder and CEO for One Voice Consortium. It's a diaspora-based organization that is an umbrella of others that are in various sectors, education, finance, business, technology, governance, agriculture and food security, health, and community affairs, and so forth. In fact, including youth empowerment and women empowerment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Orwaru. I'm a senior consultant with Deloitte Consulting US. Deloitte, as you know, is the largest professional service company in the world. We have over 500,000 employees. We also do have a partner firm in Kenya, in East Africa, Deloitte Kenya, which is very well known for audit, accounting, risk, and advisory. So welcome to this event. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Lusa. I'm the director responsible for financial markets at the Central Bank of Kenya. And the Central Bank of Kenya, as you know, is the monetary authority within the country, but also responsible as the agent for the government with respect to domestic debt. And so I'm here with my team, and we will be talking about our new infrastructure that makes it much easier for you to invest back home. Thank you.
Excellent. So you all know PS Njogu, who is the PS for State Department of Diaspora, and her job is to take care of her concerns about the welfare of diasporans in personam. But I'm the PS in charge of investment, and my concern is to take care of the welfare of your remittance and investments. The remittance space in the world, it's a 600 billion market. And out of that, 100 billion comes to Africa. And what comes to Kenya is $4 billion. In our foreign exchange earnings, if you're looking at our forex stock, our first forex stock is exports, which is about $6 billion. The second forex stock in Kenya is diaspora remittance, which is around $4 billion. Then the third one is about tourism earnings, and the fourth one is FDI. But there's a World Bank report which said that this $4 billion from the diaspora is just 5% of your disposable income. So if we can enhance your investor optimism or your diaspora optimism and diaspora trust to only 10%, we can double the diaspora remittance from 4 billion to 8 billion. But all this, the remittance, it's going to Kenya for consumption. It's all about for food, health, education. So my job is to convert at least 50% of your remittance to investments in Kenya. But for you to invest, you must ask questions, right? You must ask what is the business, what is the investment climate in Kenya? Although it's back home, but you need to understand. What are the opportunities there to invest in? What are the incentive framework for you to be enticed to invest back home? But most importantly, what is your entry point and what are the partnerships you need to form so that you can deploy your money? So the first reason why you should invest in Kenya, I will say, it is because it is your home. You just invest back home. But investing back home does not make sense. It must make economic sense. And that is why the first thing is about the economic environment of Kenya. And this question goes straight to David Lusa, who is the director of Central Bank in the financial market at Central Bank of Kenya. Please let us know what is the economic environment in Kenya. I think that His Excellency the President, we can see he has been able to stabilize the exchange rate, the inflation rate. And also, we are hearing that most of these diasporans, they are very busy people. They want to invest in passive investment, not active investment. They want to invest not in physical assets. They want to invest in financial assets. And they hear that in the central bank, you have treasury bonds. You can tell us about that. But most importantly, is the economic environment and how monetary policies are managing the same. You have the floor, Dr. Lusa.
Thank you, PS. I think those are several questions in one, and I'll attempt to break it down. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you here. Good to see the Kenyans in the diaspora. As you know, Central Bank of Kenya is charged with monetary policy. And so our job is to formulate monetary policy for price stability. And price stability is important because that forms the foundation of economic activity. And I'll maybe say 3 or 4 things. I think the first thing is, if you look at the global economy, and we're out here in the US, the World Economic Outlook published by the IMF in April talked about growth for 2024 at 3.2%. That's global growth. And the outlook for 2025 at 3.2%. And this is below the long-term average of 3.8% that we've seen historically. If you go a bit closer into sub-Saharan Africa, the growth is 3.8% in 2024. But when you come closer to home, last year growth was 5.6%, and we expect growth this year to be 5.7%. So you can see that Kenya is punching above its weight when you look at the growth rates in terms of GDP, and I think that's the first thing that I'll speak to. I think the second is that you're no strangers in this part of the world to the economic crises that we've been through and the impact that's had on inflation and the cost of living. And again, in Kenya, we saw a peak on inflation at 9.6%, 2022. And what we've been able to do is bring that inflation down to 5% in April 2024. And we have a target to maintain inflation within a band, 5% plus or minus 2.5%, and we're firmly within that band. So it means that we have a stable price environment, we have good growth that is above sub-Saharan Africa. We also have growth well above the global average. And I think the last thing is to talk really about the fiscal side. And this is something that my Treasury colleagues are more responsible for, but we do work together. And we can see that we are on a fiscal consolidation path so that we can really anchor our long-term growth on a sustainable debt path. So I think those three things, just in terms of talking about the macroeconomic foundation, that should be a good reason for you to be proud and excited about investing back home. I think you touched about the exchange rate. It's always an exciting topic. The last few years have been tough around the globe because of all these pressures that we've seen. And Kenya, being a small, open economy, we have a flexible exchange rate. We have an open capital account, which means you can buy and sell currency. We were no exception. But we've been able to manage through our policies and our instruments to have a stable exchange rate. We've put policies in place to ensure that even as we go forward, we have stability on the exchange rate, and we also have returns right now that are very, very positive. So with inflation at 5%, returns on treasury bills and treasury bonds, you talked about around 15%, you have real returns on your money at 10% in an environment that is very stable. So I think I'll just build that picture, and I'm sure there'll be questions as we come back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. You've heard that's the first reason why you should invest in Kenya: stable macroeconomic indicators and good returns on investment. But David, we've heard about diaspora bond. People are discussing about, is there an opportunity for that to be issued?
Yeah, I think when we talk about diaspora bond, maybe we talk broadly about investing in Kenya in terms of financial instruments. So in terms of access to Kenya, you can access Kenya from outside as a non-resident. You can access Kenya investments as a resident. So nothing stops the diaspora now buying treasury bills and treasury bonds. And so the first thing I want to say is that we've made that much easier. And part of why I'm here with the team is that used to be a very long and tiring process. It used to be a 13-step manual process to come to the central bank physically, fill out forms just to open an account to be able to invest. But last year we transformed that completely. It is an end-to-end digital process. As much as we'd like to see you face-to-face, you don't have to come to see us to be able to invest in Kenya. And that has meant that you can, as a diaspora, access investments, those returns we were talking about, in government securities from the comfort of your home in Chicago, in DC, in LA. In terms of the diaspora bond, we want to see what other incentives do we need to put in place to make that investment attractive for diasporans. We're working with the World Bank, MIGA, their multilateral investment group, to see how to survey and ensure that the incentives that we put in place for the diasporans are timely and relevant. So as we work on that, I think the evolution of whether we need to enhance and have a diaspora bond, I know the Prime Cabinet Secretary is excited about this initiative, and it's something that we're going to be seeing through. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So as a result of the stable economic environment, Kenya has been rated the 29th fastest growing economy in the world. It is the East and Central Africa largest economy. And recently, the FDI intelligence has rated Kenya #1 as the largest, the country with the largest investment momentum. Basically, FDI intelligence is saying Kenya is the best investment destination in Africa. But for you to invest, you need money to help you invest. It's all about investment financing. And here we have Anastasia Kimtai, the CEO of KCB, who deals with catalyzing and financing the investments. What financial products are there in Kenya to help these diasporans invest in Kenya?
Thank you so much, PS. Start by putting some context. The intra-regional trade in Africa is on 14%. If you compare this with Europe, US, and the Asian community, where it's 60, 40, and 30 respectively, then there is every opportunity why we should invest in Kenya. The second item is, if you look at the connectivity within Africa, as much as we are behind the forerunners, half of Africa now is connected. And then third, If you look at the payment and settlement infrastructure, we sign on into what is called PEPs. What's the benefit of this? It is the ability for you to settle and make payment real-time online, hence eliminating some of the traditional challenges that we are having. And for you to be able to do this, first of all is the transacting. If you want to transact, then we have the foreign currency accounts to enable transacting. When it comes to investment, I know my regulator spoke about investment. You start with savings accounts, you go to T-bills, you go to infrastructure bonds that has a very high return. As of now, you're talking about a return of around 18%. This is one of the highest globally. And then thereafter, I know also you'll start asking about if we want to expand our businesses and what are some of the instruments to grow our business. We do have the trade facilities, be it letters of credit, documentary collection that facilitate trade, bonds, guarantee that we offer across the banking industry. And for one also to invest back at home, you've heard us talk about the coverage of mortgages, which is still quite low. We do offer mortgage facility. We know Kenyans the way we work. If you want to start by buying a plot, buying a land, then investing, we do offer those solutions. And this is quite exciting because this is at a single-digit interest rate as at now. If you also want us to just manage, your papers, securities, and everything, it's done in a bank. And the most exciting thing about doing it through a financial institution, and I hear you, the diasporians, many a times because of family linkages, we've done it through our families, but when you come home, there's nothing to show. If you do it through a financial entity, we are a legal entity that you can take us to court. I highly doubt whether you can take your brother or sister to court. But when you are dealing with a financial institution, we are able to offer that. And what the banks have done lately, we not only handle the financial aspect of it, we also handle the part of de-risking, be it insurance solutions that you do want. We offer you, be the last expense, because this is something that we normally don't talk about, but it's the reality. We also have a solution for that. And then, most of the time when you are here, you take care of the medical bills of your parents. We also have a senior health solution for you. And what this means, let your parents come to us in no matter the condition they are, so long as they are not more than 85 years old, and you'll get it with KCB. Finally, KCB is not only represented in Kenya, we are in East Africa, and so if you want to trade with Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, a representative office in Ethiopia, and then in Brussels, and we are also in South Sudan. So we are a one-stop stop for all your financial requirements. Thank you.
Brilliant. Nice package. So we've told you about the economic environment. We have given you the package if you want to finance your investment into Kenya. But now, let me talk about technology. Emily Oruaro, the senior consultant of Deloitte US. These people have a problem in their remittance journey. I believe so, right? A lot of what you remit, I think there's a transaction cost of around almost 10% average in Africa. In Kenya, it's around 6%. Against what is expected of around 3%. How can technology help in reducing transaction costs so that their remittance, they can have a lot of money saved so that they can invest? Emily.
Good question. Thank you very much. When you think about investment, especially in financial services, every diasporian, I believe, has faced this problem. We all use very specific and very few companies to send money home, And when we think about what we need to invest, I'm going to pose a question for you. Don't just think about, like the real estate, because the to-go-to market that most people target is real estate. There's no problem with that, by the way. But think of it, how can you diversify this investment? Like, for example, we do not have a Kenyan that I know of. I do not know of a Kenyan company that actually remits money from your phone direct to a Kenyan phone number. We do have a few that are starting to come up, but they are not as widespread as, you know, the other companies that are competing with. And that's one area. And also another diversification that we can do is, and using technology, think manufacturing. Think about what manufacturing has done here where we are. It's the backbone of this economy. Look, now think about manufacturing back home in Kenya. Yeah, it's silence. So as you think about what investment that you're going to make in Kenya, also think about investment that are, you know, diversified, like manufacturing. The good thing about Kenya, and we have a lot of raw materials. Most of the things that we export, especially agricultural produce, we send it as a raw product. It is added value, processed, and then sold back to us at a very high cost. Why can't we, as Kenyans and friends of Kenya, invest in things that add value to our raw produce and export that? We will get more remittance from there, we'll create more jobs, and the good thing is that we can use technology. We have the Industry 4.0 technology. I'm sure maybe some of you may have heard about this. So Industry 4.0 is actually the use of modern technology like AI, machine learning, big data analytics, robotics, and cobots to solve business issues or business problems in a simplified way. Some of the issues that we face with, you know, and most manufacturer investors, they'll tell you, is that we are still using legacy systems. And we have modern technology now that we can employ. One of the biggest, you know, issue with clients that I've worked with, they have the issue of data. They need to collect the data from the physical components or the physical devices to a digital device. So as they are doing that, they are, you know, changing the technology or digitizing their technology and their data. And now they can have digital talking to digital, and also digital talking to physical, and then finally, digital talking to humans. Because technology without people is not, is not helpful. So technology, we have that. And if we don't, we can, you know, we can create that. We can import that technology and start using the skill set that we have in Kenya, because we have a lot of people in Kenya who do not have jobs, but they are very well learned and they are looking for jobs. So if you think about setting up a manufacturing plant or manufacturing company in Kenya, you will absolutely have no problem with workforce. We have a great talent in Kenya, and it is relatively cheaper. That it would cost you much cheaper to use a Kenyan workforce in Kenya than it would be for you to import that workforce. So as you think about the things that you're going to invest in, or the diversified arenas that you're going to invest in, think about smart manufacturing. Think about the good and amazing processes and technology that you've seen here. Borrow that and let's take it to Kenya. Let's make Kenya a Silicon Savannah. Let's make Kenya the hub of technology investment. And think also about mining. You know, that's another area that we have not really explored to exhaustion. Think about security as well, because investment, you know, is both goods and services. You saw how COVID-19 disrupted the supply chain. And you've also seen that sometimes due to, you know, say instability in, say, logistics and transportation, we get locked out in some of the goods that we need, even some of the machineries that we need for our ecosystem. So how can we, as Kenyans and friends of Kenya, invest so that we build the market in Kenya? And when, you know, people are thinking of coming to invest in Africa, the first thought should be Kenya, because we've already established. So we have the talent, we have the technology, we have the processes, and the data to do that. So obviously, if this is a thing that you want to explore, another thing is just, you can reach out to consultants like Deloitte. We work with both government, we work with also private sectors, and we can help you in building a business case and a strategic roadmap to your investment.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the digital space, digital economy is one of the key pillars of our economic transformation agenda. His Excellency the President has 4 ways, deliberate and intentional, in creating jobs for our youth. We spend $5 billion every year in educating our youth. Once they are educated, we need to link them either to employment or entrepreneurship. And His Excellency the President has 4 ways of doing it, and he's focusing on them. One is on the construction space, in the construction of affordable housing. The next one is in the industrial space. The fourth one is in the exploitation of labor. The third one is on the exploitation of labor. And the fourth one is on the digital space. Now let's go to the ground truthing. We have practitioners on the ground to tell us. Mr. Franco Mondi, Kenya has been rated #1 in Africa in terms of startup funding. So you are a startup, and you operate in our Expo processing zone, which is our incentivized economic zone. What has been your experience to enjoy those incentives under that scheme, and what are the opportunities for diasporans to leverage on?
Thank you very much. Running a startup in Kenya is also not easy. But I was shocked the day an announcement was made that we have to collect e-teams from our farmers. That 15 people came up with ways how to do it on our software. So now we do 2,500 transactions daily, but we collect the e-teams. But I had mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it was cumbersome, but on the other, I felt it's just important to bring everyone to be a shareholder so that they also know how to run their country. But then if you think about it, there are many incentives. I mean, EPZ is one of those incentives. You can have an EPZ in your own farm, as long as it's more than 3.5 acres. But then you have a 10-year tax holiday, especially if you're on the export. And one thing people will agree with me in manufacturing, it's very difficult to bring machinery because KRA will be waiting for you. But at the EPZ, you are exempt from the tax. And for many of you who are foreign shareholders, when you transfer your dividends, you will be exempt from some of the withholding taxes. So it might be, I think I found it very easy because when you have an equipment at the port, it clears, within 2 days, and it goes straight to your EPZ. And also if you are exporting things, you're exempt from VAT. So you can run your manufacturing and focus on jobs, and you're allowed to sell some of your products back to the market. I think the biggest thing I wish is that there's also everyone to know, there's an SME section on the EPZ where they're assisting companies that are not there yet on the volume, and they provide you the land, especially in Athi River. $5,000 for 2.5 hectares per year is nothing if you have to worry about paying land in Nairobi to set up a factory. So there are a lot of incentives. I wish we could speak more of them, but then that helps an SME or somebody starting up to set up. But accessing working capital, given that we are competing with government at 18%, how much will the bank charge you? However generous they are, it has to be more than that. So we will come to diaspora, because I'm exporting to the US, and you guys are having money on this side, so please carry your checkbooks when you come to our booth. But anyway, the opportunities for investments are a lot. It's just not real estate. We have to grow our country. One of the ways is exports into the US. It's a huge market. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Walmart came to us. They want our macadamias on their shelves. Can you imagine how many packets? And now think about it. Kenya's macadamia, we have 200,000 farmers who are smallholders. Our competition down in the south might just be maybe 300 farmers. So the impact is different. 200,000 farmers, or again, maybe 100,000 more jobs. My own factory, we have 600 women working down in this factory every day. Many times when we do the value addition in our countries, we keep the jobs, we keep the money in the pockets of our people, and we build our stronger economy.
Thank you very much. You've had irresistible incentive package in Kenya for you to leverage, both fiscal and non-fiscal. Now, one of the priority value chain in this administration, Kenya government under His Excellency President Ruto, is pharmaceutical value chain, right? One of the key pillars of our economic transformation agenda is health. And there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of potential there in the health sector. According to in our budget, 20% of our health budget is spent on pharmaceutical and medical equipment. And out of that, 70% is imported pharmaceuticals. So there's a lot of opportunities to come and set base in Kenya to fill that gap, not only in Kenya, but in the East African community. So Mr. Wilson Ndege, the CEO of Daktari Biotechnology, how can we leverage on technology to exploit this potential?
Thank you so much for that question, and I think it's a very, very good question and a very important one. And I'll try to address it as exhaustively as I can so that people understand where we are coming from and how we ended up starting Daktari Biotechnology as a company. And the main reason is exactly what the PS just said here, that 70% of the money that is spent towards medicines does not stay in our country. It goes out to support the pharmaceutical companies out there. And you know what that does? Essentially, it creates jobs, it creates research dollars, pounds, or whatever you want to call it, in those other countries. Those are good paying jobs that we are missing in our own country, and that's where Daktari Biotechnology comes in. Let me tell you a little bit about Daktari Biotechnology. It's really a technology-based company founded based on technology. We used to hear a lot about brain drain, the brain coming from where? From Africa and whatever country and coming into the US and not going back. We decided to reverse that. We are actually doing brain gain. Daktari Biotechnology is founded by Kenyan scientists who came here to school. They actually stayed, they gained a lot of knowledge, and with their friends and partners, decided that, we are going to use some of the knowledge we've gained, the technology we've gained, and actually go start up Daktari Biotechnology. So it's a very young startup, and it has a very interesting principle. We actually want to involve everybody who is seated here right now as a founder too. So we have investment opportunities for those who want to come in and invest and own a piece of it. Why do you want to cede this 70% to foreign companies? And we have nothing against them, They can come and sell to us what we can't make, but if we are able to make it and sell it to the African market, then we should be able to do so. Let me say one thing too. As the PS said, there's one thing that probably we want to capture here. The healthcare sector, not just in Kenya, but in Africa, is one of the fastest growing sectors. It's growing at a rate of 8 to 10% every year. In Africa as a whole, it's valued at around $120 billion a year, and about 37 billion or $40 billion of that goes towards medicines. And out of that, $40 billion that goes towards medicines, almost 75 to 80% goes back to the major pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies out there that do not contribute directly to creating opportunity for our people, reinvesting in our universities, investing in the other technology industries that we want to develop, and that's why Daktari Biotechnology is there to reverse this. Why do we say we are a technology-based company? We essentially are working to repurpose some of the drugs that are used right out there, for instance, the HIV drugs. Some of the brilliant scientists we've been able to bring technology have essentially taken the AIDS drugs that we use right now to treat HIV and repurposed them, made them much better using technology, come up with new drugs that can be used to treat patients only once in a year or once in a year and a half. You don't have to get any other injection or any other treatment once you go out there and get treated. You don't have to be exposed to the toxicities of having the daily pill load. And some patients feel like they don't want to step away from that and say, you know, I'm feeling so sick from taking this medicine, and therefore, you know, I don't want to continue taking it. And then you create the risks of resistance and all that. So that's where we come into this space. And we are not just working in HIV alone. We have, let me put it this way, 6-7 years ago, I stepped away from my job at a pharmaceutical company, and I decided I was going to spend about, 24 hours, if I could, in a day, just developing technology to do what we call biopharmaceuticals. These are drugs that are developed in living organisms. If anybody lived during the pandemic area, you remember how we were clustered in, we couldn't go outside, do anything with the friends or whatever. This is where Dr. Biotechnology steps in. We have actually developed technology with my friends that I've been working with for a long time, and we are redirecting that towards producing vaccines and other, biology-based drugs like diabetes medicines and many others. We are also in the animal space, where we are developing medicines for foot and mouth disease, for East Coast fever, which costs our farmers a lot of money. We don't want them to spend a lot of money paying the pharmaceutical companies outside. We want to keep that inside our country and be able to make sure that, we create revenue opportunity for our people, and also we bring the knowledge back. So one of the challenges I've really faced myself as an investor in Kenya is the cost of borrowing. And we'll talk with my friend here, because sometimes when you hear what they give you on the table, you go like, I don't think the business will survive this. But I think we can create a lot of opportunities when we talk directly to your people, so that you can also invest a little bit of what you send back directly into some of the ventures we are doing. That's how we are going to create wealth for you, create wealth for other people, and create opportunity for people in Kenya. And then also think about in terms of, I'm trying to see how much venture capital is available for us in Kenya that is originally born in Kenya for us. And I don't see much. I think the people who are in the banking industry here, we need to talk about that. This is how you're going to create opportunity for companies like us and many other people who are smart out here who want to come back and invest in Kenya. We don't just want to source the money from here. It's going to be very difficult, because if I tell a story and I'm a Kenyan to a Kenyan in Kenya, it's easier for them to understand than sometimes telling it from here. So I'll leave it there for now, but we can continue the conversation later on.
Thank you very much. And the challenges are there to be addressed. In my State Department, we continuously engage the private sector to identify what are the costs of doing business that we need to address. And what is coming out is about cost of capital, cost of energy, and the last one, which is called cost of taxation. But past tax we must pay, because kulipa ushuru ni kujivunia. Yes. Now, now we go to the real investor himself. The real investor himself is, and our approach to investors is, we are investor-centric. We want to make sure we are addressing the investor's interest. And Mr. Robert Shuri is the CEO of the umbrella of Diaspora Association, who are hungry to invest in Kenya. But the question we are asking is, what is preventing you from investing in Kenya? We have showed you that we have the best investment climate. In fact, we have been rated number 3 by World Bank in terms of ease of doing business. We have a lot of attractive investment opportunities. We have a lot of irresistible incentive package. This gentleman has demonstrated that. You have an entry point to come to Kenya through our Kenya Investment Authority. You can partner with the private sector in Kenya. What is preventing you from? We need that money because we recognize the role of diaspora in our economic development. And we are constructively and engaging the diaspora community so that your remittance can fund our economic transformation agenda. Why is the money not doubling?
Thank you, our Honorable PS, for that question. Again, as I said earlier, my name is Robert Churi, and I represent the One Voice Consortium, which is an umbrella organization that brings together a lot of our diaspora organizations here, in not just in US, but globally. We have all these organizations in Europe, in Asia, in Middle East, in outside of Kenya, in Africa, and all of them are there to, with a mission to uplift and improve the lifestyle and livelihood of our people in various sectors, education, as I said earlier, agriculture, and so forth. So that question you've posed is very, very critical for us. First of all, let me thank the government, our government, for that bold step in creating the State Department of Diaspora, because for the first time we had now a real linkage of diaspora with the government in terms of development. And yes, we have been known very much about remittances, and as we said earlier, those remittances, yes, they go in various forms as consumable reinvestment, but not really in terms of really creating a stable development path. Because sometimes we send money for education, for health, for food, and not so much of it for really long-term kind of developments. And this is where we are thinking there's a great opportunity for changing the paradigm shift here, so that now the diaspora can have more kind of targeted investment that can be able to be done in Kenya. We know for a fact that if we can be able to actually even to get the diaspora band, because if it is something that is really created for the diaspora, they have the money and they can be able to invest back home using those structures that have been developed. We know if, for instance, we can be able to have public and private sector projects that can be attractive to the diaspora. Information about those projects to the diaspora can be also very, very important, because they can come together as organizations that are already here, actually saving money. We have very many circles that are here in around the diaspora that can be able actually to undertake those kind of contracts, those public-private contracts in Kenya, whether it is roads, construction, whether it is building, infrastructure, whatever it is out there, so opportunities can be there. I'm also seeing an area that we have not been talking about. Yes, we are talking about our remittances increasing, but there is a danger. There is a danger because we are not encouraging our young people to see the need to invest back in Kenya as remittances. So there is a danger that in years coming, if we are not going to start working on that level, we may have here a generation that does not really see the connection in investing back in Kenya. And so we need to really tackle this issue very well. We have young people in this country, in the diaspora, that sometimes they don't understand why we send money to Kenya, because they have not that attachment. So we are saying, as diaspora organizations, we need to really work on encouraging our young people to invest back home, so that we can continue having that sustainable remittances. And not just remittances in terms of finance. We also need to widen it to skills remittances. We need to have another discussion around how do we transfer skills back home, technology back home, equipment back home, and any other ways in which we can be able to help our country. And that is why One Voice Consortium wants to be a leader in that discussion. We already have what we call the Food Security Consortium. We have partnered with Nairobi University to address issues of agriculture and value chain in various sectors, in various areas in Kenya. And we'll be able to talk more about that as part of the investment.
Thank you very much. Invest back home. Indeed, Kenya is home for everyone. Now it has been scientifically certified that Kenya is the home of human origin. So even you can tell your friends, the black Americans and other Americans, that they should go back home, should come to Kenya because Kenya is home, and His Excellency the President has removed the visa. You can just access your home anytime. But His Excellency the President has not only established the State Department of Diaspora for the first time in the history of Kenya, but also the State Department of Investment for the first time in the history of Kenya. But also, he has also established an organ called the National Investment Council, chaired by the President himself, and some members of the councils are here. We have Ahmed Farah. He's a member of the National Investment Council, so that all the challenges you have, if they warrant his attention, they will go all the way to his office so that they can be addressed. Now, with those many remarks, we now open the floor to the target audience to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Give them a hand of clap, Tafadhali. Great job. We've listened, we've heard a lot. Now this session, I'll give it like around 5 to 10 minutes just for question and answers. If you have a question for the panelists, for the PS as well, Nasiya ushuru tafadhali, no taxation questions at this moment. I know the right PS to ask that. If you have any questions, just raise your hand, I'll come. I'll try to get just a few people around the hall. I'll start back here. Around 5 questions or so we can move to the next session. My panelists for the next session are ready. Just say your name, if you live here in Diaspora, and then your question, tafadhali.
My name is Dr. Josephine Misaro. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Josephine Misaro. I teach gerontology at Georgia State University. So my question is to KCB and Central Bank. And it's a simple question. Why should I invest in KCB and not Central Bank, and vice versa? Why Central Bank and not KCB? My second question is to Deloitte. I thought I can't remember the name. So if I wanted to start a business in Kenya, like you're encouraging us to do, how will Deloitte help me? And how much will I pay them for doing what they do for me? Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. Central Bank and KCB. We can start with KCB, and then I go to Central Bank. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Josephine, for your question. Central Bank is my regulator and is a lender of last resort. Now, we are a commercial entity where we facilitate your investment. Same time, even if you want to invest in T-bonds, T-bills, yes, we will facilitate it for you. And more specifically, let me even talk about the diaspora. We have a team here who are specifically coming to engage you, and we will be going to Dallas, Minnesota, Missouri, Seattle, New Jersey, Oregon, Pennsylvania, all those places to just socialize some of the solutions we have. And allow me also to speak to one of the questions that it has not been answered. Why Kenya? In Kenya, we have the highest return. If you ask me, most of the funds that comes to the country, the donor wall is looking for a higher return. It's just last year that the interest rates in Europe and America when above 5%. So the reason why you need to invest in Kenya is because of the highest return. Another area also, and I did highlight, is because of the digital transformation. Traditionally, we were using the all methods of investment. But right now with digitization, you can actually best here, Dr. Josephine, share the instruction with the respective commercial banks, and you can do your internet banking, instruction to invest, and everything as a commercial entity. And finally, also, as a Kenya enterprise, we also do mobilize. And what I talk about is that you can be in a chama, and majority of us are known for chama and investment groups. We mobilize that amount of resources and multiply for you. Let me give you an example. If you are 10 of you and you have 100,000 right now, we give you times 10 and invest on your behalf for you. So that's the reason why you need to use the commercial bank, as my regulator regulates me and also ensures that customer is not exploited in terms of business. Then you do have, you can reach us, you can engage the staff that are here so that we can facilitate your investment. Over and above is the non-financial solutions also that we do offer as commercial banks. We have what we call networking forums, we have what we call mentorship, we have what we call coaching, we have exposure to best practices globally. That on 25th, we'll be having a team from KCB visiting the US, trying to come and learn best practices. Those are available within the commercial bank. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I just have a few minutes, so Central Bank will bring you in, and then I'll come to a question here, and then one more, and then I move to the next session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't rush the diasporans. They're here to hear this panel, so I think we need to answer all their questions. Thank you, Dr. Misero. I think do both. As just been said, you know, we're the monetary authority that provides the environment to allow entities like KCB to succeed. And you can think about it in two ways. One is that we have, in our role as the fiscal agent for the government, we need to raise money to finance the budget. And so the elements of the budget that are not financed by revenues, we step in on the domestic side to mobilize those resources. Those resources, I want to give you an example. We had an infrastructure bond in February. It was the largest infrastructure bond that we issued. It's a tax-free instrument. And so when we went out for this bond, we received 288 billion shillings in interest in terms of people wanting to invest. We took 249, and roughly half of that was non-resident investors, was foreign investors. These are international investors who've seen the opportunity to invest in Kenya because when they look at the macros I was talking about, low inflation, fiscal consolidation path, they saw that this was a real opportunity to take advantage of the rates that we're seeing now that might not be there for much longer. And therefore, if the foreign investors can see that opportunity, we don't want our diaspora left out. And we've created the channels to make it extremely easy for you. In 15, 20 minutes, you can have an account set up digitally. The team is here, and you could make it in time for an auction if we had an auction in 25 minutes. So that's how seamless we've made that for you. But also on the equity side, KCB is a listed company. And so you can invest in them that way as well. And so that's why my answer is that you can do both. In terms of the return, and I talked earlier about the real return, but essentially what we're saying was when you adjust for inflation, the kind of returns you'll see in Kenya just now are really, really good. So with inflation at 5%, returns at 15% plus on T-bills and T-bonds, you would say, well, what about the currency? Kenya's currency is the best performing currency in the world this year. So when you think about as a diaspora and your risk on that side as well, that's covered, again, because of the policies that have been put in place to make sure that the economic environment is stable. So I think, PS, that question has been answered, but if you have any further questions, don't feel afraid to see me. If you see a team from Central Bank there, if you can just put your hands up, that team is ready to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So after this, there'll be some clinicals for you to do one-on-one.
All right, thank you very much. So this is what I'm going to do. I know the next panel is ready. I've eaten 15 minutes to their time. I know we had only 2 questions. And then from here, the next one is trade. So we can kind of push all of them together. So real quick question, and then you, and then we go to the answers.
Yeah, my name is Moite. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for the nice work you have done in the projections of economy. I have one simple question. Like, whenever you're investing, first thing you want to be assured is the safety of your funds. Now, what I'm heading at is, you have given us very promising figures, but my question is, given the recent devastating rains that we had, which messed our economy, our infrastructures, things that we had not budgeted for, are they going to affect those numbers that you just gave us? And if so, what is the expected damage economically by the current weather that's just hit us?
All right, let me get this other question, and then we'll answer all those together, and we'll wrap this session.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Muriuki, and I have a company called Bar Games. It stands for Bringing Atlanta's Resources to Boost African Hubs. I'm in the esports space, so electronic games. Atlanta is the esports capital of the United States. If you didn't know, in November there's a contest, and the prize pool is $60 million for video games. So my question is for the diaspora. I think, Chris, you said we talk about how are you going to bring resources back home. How are we connecting families, and all of us have kids and families, how are we connecting them back home to these other gamers? And for the bankers, what financial instrument tools? I represent about 150 youth in Kenya. What financial instrument tools do we have for youth from ages 7 all the way to 18 years old?
All right, thank you very much. As we answer those questions, Bwana PS, I'll also, once the questions are answered, I'll ask you to do quick finalizing remarks, then I'll bring in the next panel. Thank you very much.
So we answer the question first? Or
yes,
do the
answer the question first, and then you'll do your closing remarks here on this session, and then I bring in the next session. Thank you very much.
Let me give the tough questions to Lusa to answer on the climate change damage. But we, as a country, we are moving to green economy, and we are attracting, incentivizing, and enabling a green investment so that we can mitigate and adapt to the impact of the climate change. But David Lusa can answer to.
Yeah, thank you. And the MC I've been seeing, we still have 10 minutes because we started, I think, at 2:30.
So we still have 10 minutes.
And my colleague here is saying that she didn't answer the question that was asked earlier. So I will pass the mic to her as we finish. I think that's, I think first of all, the question regarding the impact of the devastating floods that we've had in the country is a relevant one. But I think it's a relevant one, particularly within the context of climate change, which, as we know, is the most devastating or most significant challenge that the world is facing in terms of stability, in terms of impact on humans and our welfare. And Kenya is not immune, despite being one of the lowest emitters of emissions. We are facing the brunt and the impact of climate change. Within our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement, it was assessed that we need $62 billion to respond to those effects in terms of, I think, PS, as you said, adaptation and mitigation. And we've committed, the country is committed to fund 8 billion of that domestically, and to be able to finance the rest through our multilateral partners. And as you know, with climate finance, whether it's public, whether it's private, whether it's multilateral, we have significant need for resources to be able to plug that gap. And so working with our partners, the World Bank, the IMF, under the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, we've been able to access financing under that to make sure that the policies that we put in place can respond to those challenges. At the central bank, we had issued guidelines for climate risk to the banking sector. But most recently, we have also published a draft Kenya Green Finance Taxonomy, which will be able to get the institutions to have a lot more clarity on what is needed to deliver green within the financing sector. And we've worked with the European Investment Bank, and that draft is on our website, and we're looking for public participation. So these elements are programmed into our longer-term future as a country, but in terms of dealing with the short-term shocks, I think these are unexpected shocks, and we have partnerships that allow us to respond to these challenges. In terms of the youth, 7 to 18, I think a question around that. I would encourage that these youth have parents, and these parents can open central security depository accounts and allow those children to invest on their behalf, and as they turn 18, they can take over those accounts themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lusa. I think
I think I have
It
to
was
pass
the
the
security.
microphone.
Bueno,
here
PS,
also.
I'm really running short of time. My next panelists are really ready. So just
let me
one
wrap it
quick,
up.
yes, and then
let me wrap it up.
yes, and then we'll move the next questions to the next panelist. Afadhali. We can do that. Thank you.
Lusa has ended with green taxonomy to avoid the green, to manage the greenwashing risk, because in every investment, it's about return, and for every return, there are risks. So what we are doing as government is to mitigate your risk. We have demonstrated to you how we are mitigating the economic risk, the political risk, the security risk, the environment risk, so that you can get return on investment. Remember our goal, we want to convert 50% of your remittance to investments, and our approach is to go get them. So we've come here to come get you, so you either tag along or be dragged along. Thank you very much.